Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by Maller Grodner Attorneys, providing legal services to clients and the community. Understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis. LawMG.com. IU Center for Rural Engagement, extending IU Bloomington resources to improve Hoosier lives in partnerships with communities and organizations. rural.indiana.edu. Smithville Fiber Internet Security Solutions and Voice in Southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. Bunger and Robertson Attorneys at Law, utilizing 75 years of experience, knowledge, and resources to help individuals and families recover in personal injury matters. Information at lawbr.com. And by WTIU members. Thank you.
Coming up on Indiana Newsdesk. Indiana will have a new governor next year, and voters will determine if it's Republican Mike Braun, Democrat Jennifer McCormick, or Libertarian Donald Rainwater. We take a look at the three candidates looking to replace two-term Governor Eric Holcomb.
There have been some politicians out there who feel they can score political points, pander to their base of support by attacking institutions of higher education.
The 2024 election is days away. What impact could these leaders have on Indiana's public colleges?
And the Indiana football team goes for a program record 9th straight win to start a season Saturday at Michigan State. We'll have these stories plus the latest news from across the state right now on Indiana Newsdesk. Welcome to Indiana Newsdesk. I'm Joe Wren. Election day is Tuesday, and the choice in Indiana's gubernatorial race is sharply divided across policy lines. Republican Mike Braun, Democrat Jennifer McCormick, and Libertarian Donald Rainwater each cast very different visions for the future of the state. Indiana Public Broadcasting's Brandon Smith dives into those visions with the three candidates vying to replace current Governor Eric Holcomb.
Republicans have controlled the governor's office for 20 years, but Republican Mike Braun's message isn't necessarily focused on continuity. Rather, Braun says Republicans have become complacent, for instance, on addressing high health care costs.
No one really wants to tackle health care. It's the biggest part of our economy. They write a lot of political checks, all of that. I've got a track record where I can do it, and I'm looking forward to it.
Braun's plan is focused on prevention and wellness, which Democrat Jennifer McCormick notes is a major element of Governor Holcomb's historic public health funding program.
I commend Governor Holcomb and his team. I mean, that has been good for Hoosiers, but it's an expense, but we also need to look at it as an investment.
Emphasizing bipartisanship, whether by praising Republican-led programs or even adopting GOP policy proposals, is a major part of McCormick's campaign. That makes sense, considering McCormick was a Republican when she served as state superintendent of public instruction. That dynamic works right into Libertarian Donald Rainwater's vision, disrupting the two-party system entirely with a total shift in how government operates.
I see things that are broken.
Take property taxes. All three candidates have plans for providing relief from high property tax bills. McCormick's focuses on relief through state income taxes.
Because we were very concerned about the local level funding. So when you've got schools and libraries and police and fire and parks and the list goes on that are being funded through that, and I talked to enough local leaders, they were like, we can't sustain that.
Braun's puts a much greater burden on local governments.
The bill is mostly about the feature of limiting increases in the future, because that's the complaint that everybody had, is their bills got skewed by things that happened federally that created inflation.
But Rainwater wants state and local governments to fundamentally change their priorities to accommodate a huge reduction in property taxes. A big part of that change? Ending tax incentives used to lure big companies to Indiana.
Not, oh, you're taking all our money away from us. No, I'm saying that we should take the money away that you're skimming off the top and giving to corporations at the expense of the citizens.
Rainwater's philosophy of upending the status quo also extends to education.
I don't think that the 150 legislators at 200 West Washington Street should be making education decisions for the children in the state of Indiana. I believe that should be parents, teachers, local school boards. I believe we need to decentralize education in the state of Indiana.
If that philosophy is Rainwater's biggest selling point to voters, McCormick's is likely reproductive rights. She wants Indiana to undo its near-total abortion ban.
The fact of the matter is this election's about we're either going to have a governor who trusts women or who does not. I'm the only candidate who has been pregnant, and I've given a live birth, and I understand firsthand the complexities of pregnancy.
Braun waves aside criticism of the ban, calling Indiana a pro-life state. His selling point is his career building a small auto parts distribution business into a multi-million-dollar company.
I'm going to try to fertilize the field of entrepreneurs. Remember, I'm a Main Street entrepreneur that was a small business, scraping, scraping, just trying to do everything to survive for nearly half the time I ran it.
Much of what decides a state-level race is influenced by national politics, something none of the candidates for governor can control. But what they each hope is that the visions they presented to voters can help them capitalize on whichever ways the political winds shift the race. For Indiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Brandon Smith at the State House.
And we're joined now by Brandon Smith at the State House. Thank you so much, Brandon, for being back on the show. You know, when the governor's race began, Mike Braun winning kind of appeared to be a foregone conclusion, but this race feels tighter than that. What's changed?
Well, for one thing, the shift in the presidential race, Kamala Harris being elevated to the top position, definitely energized a lot of Democrats. But there's also the wild card of Mike Braun's running mate, Micah Beckwith. Jennifer McCormick's campaign has been able to highlight Beckwith's extreme beliefs and try to paint the whole ticket as too outside the Hoosier mainstream.
Let's talk a little bit about Donald Rainwater. Could he be a spoiler in this election?
Absolutely, which is likely why the state Republican Party sent out mailers attacking Rainwater in recent weeks. Now, Rainwater got 11% of the vote in 2020, which was a record for a Libertarian. I don't think he'll hit double digits again this year, but if he gets close and the Braun-McCormick race is tight, that could help sway the outcome.
Let's switch over to the race for Attorney General, drawing a lot of attention. Destiny Wells has really gone after Todd Rokita's multiple disciplinary investigations. What are your thoughts on that race?
Well, she's definitely done that, and the National Republican Attorney General Association has poured money into the race to help ensure Todd Rokita isn't dragged down by the controversies that he's helped create. But it's really hard for a Democrat to win statewide, and particularly hard for Destiny Wells to break through with her message in an election year that so much of the attention and the noise is eaten up by the presidential race and the gubernatorial race.
And the Republicans, have that supermajority in the state for a dozen years. Do you see this year's election changing that in any way?
Well, so much, again, depends on national politics when we're talking about down-ballot races. But Democrats here are targeting a small handful of House seats to flip, one in the Bloomington area, which was the closest House race 2 years ago, and then a lot of suburban districts around Indianapolis. And if they can win 4 of those seats and hold on to all of the ones they currently hold, that would break the House supermajority. Now, flipping 4 seats in one cycle would be a huge challenge, though.
All right, thanks, Brandon. I know it's going to be quite a week, and we're looking forward to your coverage on Election Day. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you, Joe.
You can find all the latest election news, full interviews with key candidates, more on our election page, WTIU.org/election. The lone debate in Indiana's 2024 U.S. Senate race was a sedate exchange between just 2 of the 3 candidates, as Republican Jim Banks declined to participate. But Democrat Valerie McCray and Libertarian Andrew Horning did disagree on several topics, including health care, gun regulations, and the country's support of conflicts in Ukraine and Gaza.
We need to reprioritize what we're using government for. The fact that we are funding every other country on the planet, we're using our armies and our dollar to force other countries to do what we want when we're not taking care of our own people here at home, that's ridiculous.
But Horning and McCray never argued, rarely even addressing each other. Banks was mentioned only twice by either of his opponents. McCray referenced him in an answer about supporting federal legislation to spur tech manufacturing.
My other opponent, however, has tried to block these bills that were bringing information, bringing money, bringing technology to Indiana.
McCray also used her final words in the debate to say Banks skipped it because he disrespects Hoosiers. Voters are listing the economy and immigration as top concerns for the 2024 election, but they might be missing a major issue in Bloomington's backyard. Higher education reporter Aubrey Wright has more.
Thanks, Joe. Elected officials have a lot of power over Indiana's public colleges, deciding who serves on oversight boards, how much money they get, and what laws they have to follow. These leaders could push Indiana colleges in a new direction. Indiana University has seen a lot of change and controversy in the last few years. Free speech, diversity programs, and leadership are at the center of protests and pushback. In Indiana, politics and higher education are tightly linked, and elected governors, senators, and representatives have a big impact.
It feels like this is a point where academia is in a crossroads, and what happens in the election and then what happens in the state house in terms of policy will really determine where we go in the future.
Republican leaders have a supermajority in Indiana, and keeping it after the election wouldn't be a surprise. Nationally, party leaders propose cutting the Department of Education, eliminating diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, and more. They say these changes will benefit students and save money, but not everyone agrees.
Unfortunately, higher education has become a political football. There have been some politicians out there who feel they can score political points, pander to their base of support by attacking institutions of higher education.
Republican Mike Braun and Democrat Jennifer McCormick are running for governor, and the winner has an important role, choosing who leads Indiana's public colleges.
Whoever is elected governor will appoint the trustees of the university, majority of them, 6 out of 9 for Indiana University.
Alumni elect the other 3 at IU. Trustees govern the entire university. They are the final authority on all issues. They approve the university's leaders, including presidents, and they decide compensation and goals for those presidents.
It's kind of a cascading effect. So if you want trustees that will choose good people to run the institution, if you want an administration that is going to respect faculty, you have to start by becoming politically active.
Voters might want to follow the money. Education accounts for half of Indiana's state budget. Legislators decide how much funding colleges get and often provide money for major projects. But now, colleges compete for funding with technical and workforce training. They're struggling to maintain revenue through tuition.
That tension that we see is the basic argument of what's best for our economy and what's best for our high school graduates. We've seen fewer high school graduates choose to go to college and more considering pursuing other career alternatives.
Elected officials decide how much funding public colleges get. For example, the General Assembly gave IU and Purdue University $60 million each to build up Indianapolis campuses. They believe it will help more Hoosiers get valuable jobs with hard science degrees. At the same time, lawmakers cut funding to IU's Kinsey Institute, which specializes in sexuality and gender research. Republican lawmaker Larissa Sweet introduced those cuts, falsely claiming founder Alfred Kinsey abused children.
When money is given, there's questions about rules, regulations, what's going on. And a lot of times this interest, I believe, in terms of what you're doing with the funding and what you're not doing.
Tension is building around free speech and culture. Around the country, voters and leaders on the right believe college campuses are too liberal and hostile to conservative ideas.
I think we're going to continue to see this as a major issue, a question of what college campuses allow and what they prohibit, and how that plays a role in terms of the political partisan dynamic.
Lawmakers are responding. This year, Governor Eric Holcomb signed Senate Enrolled Act 202 into law. It changed tenure review, forcing faculty to teach what lawmakers call intellectual diversity. Faculty could be reported if they don't. Lawmakers say it was a move to make conservative students more comfortable on campus and keep the tenure process fair. But instructors and university leaders, such as IU President Pamela Whitten, strongly disagreed with the law. They say it limits academic freedom and will weaken colleges.
The legislature is reaching deeply into how the faculty are evaluated and what happens within the classroom. And I think that's an example of overreach.
SEA 202 also takes aim at DEI. Colleges have to get rid of statements supporting diversity and report funding and purposes for DEI programs. Similar laws could be on the books next year.
I think it's pretty clear that in the upcoming session of the General Assembly will be going after diversity, equity, and inclusion programs.
This election in the upcoming legislative session could be a turning point for Indiana colleges. At least one group shouldn't be counted out of the conversation: students.
This being a very exciting and very close presidential election, this is where we could really see those younger voters making a difference and tipping the scales if they turn out to vote.
Around Indiana's college campuses, everyone wants to get more people to the polls on Election Day. Reporting from Indiana University, for Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Aubrey Wright.
Coming up next on Indiana Newsdesk. Tens of thousands of visitors descend upon Brown County every fall for the changing colors of the leaves, including numerous artists. And the 13th ranked Indiana football team looks to continue its perfect season this Saturday at Michigan State. These stories and more right here on Indiana Newsdesk.
Fall in love with public media. WFIU WTIU Open House. Thursday, November 14th, 5 to 7 p.m. at the Radio TV Building, 1229 East 7th Street in Bloomington. Meet your favorite WFIU and WTIU personalities, take a tour of our broadcast facilities, and get an insider's look at the world of public broadcasting. Light hors d'oeuvres, desserts, and beverages will be provided. This event is free and open to the public. More information at WTIU.org/events.
Welcome back to Indiana Newsdesk. We're joined now by Shelby Brown for the latest headlines from around the state. Hi, Shelby.
Hi, Joe. Bloomington City Council voted unanimously to approve pay increases for the police and fire departments, as well as many positions across all departments on Wednesday. The salary for a firefighter first class was increased from roughly $54,000 a year to $78,000 a year for 2025. That will go up roughly $83,000 a year in 2026. Police will receive a base pay increase of $12,000 for officer first class and senior police officer positions.
Basically, the last quarter of the year, we're going to be hiring 4 sworn officers from other agencies. So that's a really good sign for us.
The raises take effect on January 1st. 15 Indiana University professors are claiming fans lined up for ESPN's Game Day show last Saturday morning, and it broke IU's expressive activity policy. It bans gatherings between 11 p.m. and 6 a.m. ESPN set up a special Game Day event near Memorial Stadium. Fans and students camped outside overnight before Hoosier football team beat University of Washington.
The university is not allowed to pick and choose which expressive activities are okay and which are not.
Lichtenstein says on a college campus, people should be able to celebrate a football game and attend a candlelight vigil. An IU spokesperson says the ESPN event was, quote, sanctioned and operated with IU's consent and did not violate the policy. The City of Bloomington Utilities is altering its water treatment process after residents complained about odor and taste. The city says temporarily using a powdered activated carbon sourced from more coconut husk than what it was using before.
So this year, when we started to see an increase in those compounds that people say taste musty, we switched over to this product.
Powdered activated carbon is used at the beginning of the city's water treatment process and then filtered out. It helps absorb contaminants that affect the water's taste and smell, along with pesticides and biocides. Climate change is leading to more powerful weather events across the globe, but viewers wanted to know, is it too late to address climate change? Indiana Public Broadcasting's Rebecca Thiel reports it's a question that spurred a lot of scientific debate.
Indiana State climatologist Beth Hall believes the Earth will return to the natural changes in climate we saw before the industrial age. But when will that be? No one knows. If we stop burning fossil fuels tomorrow, Hall says it could still take decades or maybe 100 years for those emissions to leave Earth's atmosphere.
And then what damage will have occurred on our planet over that long period of time? I don't think we have seen the peak yet of impacts on Earth.
Regardless, Hall says we need to address climate change right now in order for future generations to thrive.
Can we do that? Can we make a decision that we will never see personally, or perhaps our children and grandchildren will never see personally?
And scientists say every degree of warming we can avoid means a brighter future, with the potential to save millions of lives and keep many species of plants and animals from going extinct. For Indiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Rebecca Thiel.
Scientists say climate change can make flooding, extreme heat, tick diseases, and reduced crop yields worse in Indiana. The Indiana Fever are bringing back former Purdue standout Stephanie White as their head coach. White played for the Fever in the early 2000s and coached the team in 2015 and 2016. She succeeds Christy Sides, who was fired Wednesday after 2 seasons, and despite leading the Fever to the playoffs for the first time in 8 years. The Kirkwood Candle Bar will be moving into the building that housed the Irish Lion next year. The store is currently located in the nearby Fountain Square Mall and offers candle making classes. Candle Bar manager Courtney O'Rourke says the building will give them more space to accommodate larger groups. She says they are planning to keep the bar top to pay homage to the building's history. And Joe, that building dates back to the late 1800s. A picture of its bar was actually used in the opening credits of Cheers.
I wonder if people are still going to want to order the Blarney Puffballs.
Oh my gosh, they're amazing.
Thank you. Well, every year when the leaves start to change color, many travel to Brown County State Park to take in the views. While most people choose to take photos of the landscapes, others capture the moments with brushes and canvas. Reporter Katie Spack and videographer Lauren Tucker spent a morning with Indianapolis-based painter Justin Vining to learn what draws people to the area.
They call it Chasing the Light. I started doing it in 2014 as an exercise. It's kind of self-taught just through experience, but that's also misleading just because I paint with so many other painters and we're always teaching each other things and giving each other ideas. Seeing the painters that have painted these scenes before me, I find a ton of inspiration in that. This time of year, the paintings at sunrise are going to have like a lot more color variety. It makes painting them more difficult, but I think that difficulty is also what makes it so much fun and challenging to do. And it becomes harder to look at this with fresh eyes. Sometimes that's like a hurdle to overcome. You know, if I could go back in time and forget everything I know about painting out here and start making paintings fresh again, I actually would probably do that. And I would love to see what those paintings would look like. But now, for better or for worse, and probably for both of those, all of that experience informs what I do out here. I don't find a hard time waking up. Like, it feels a little bit more like Christmas. I want to be out here painting, so when the alarm goes off, there's no snooze. The light this time of day is very fleeting. So we are somewhat on the clock. Even right now, the color has changed quite a bit since we've been standing here. This is only an hour from 2 million people. We did see 2 people this morning from North Carolina. You know what I mean? It's like, where's everyone else? If you have never seen the sunrise in Brown County, you should definitely come out and watch it.
And Indiana University will have starting quarterback Curtis Rourke back for Saturday's game at Michigan State. Head coach Curt Cignetti said on his radio show Thursday night that Rourke took every snap with the first team in practice Wednesday and Thursday and looked sharp. Rourke missed last week's win over Washington after having surgery on his right thumb that he injured in the October 19th game against Nebraska. Indiana is looking to start a season 9-0 for the first time ever. That's the end of this program. Our work continues online at WTIUnews.org. Have a great weekend.
Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by Maller-Grodner Attorneys, providing legal services to clients and the community. Understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis. LawMG.com. IU Center for Rural Engagement, extending IU Bloomington resources to improve Hoosier lives in partnerships with communities and organizations. Rural.indiana.edu. Smithville Fiber Internet Security Solutions and Voice in Southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. Bunger & Robertson Attorneys at Law, utilizing 75 years of experience, knowledge, and resources to help individuals and families recover in personal injury matters. Information at lawbr.com. And by WTIU members. Thank you.